Hi. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and to spend some time with you all. My name is Rabbi Sandra Lawson. The story of Hanukkah, this holiday of Hanukkah, is a holiday and it's a story about how light can push away darkness. And it's a story of how when life appears too dark, it just takes one candle. And then we light another candle and poof, we have pushed the darkness away. Also this week, we read from the Torah portion Miketz. The Torah portion Miketz always falls during the holiday of Hanukkah. And in this Torah reading, we learn that Pharaoh has dreams. And he has dreams about 7 healthy cows and 7 skinny cows. And then the 7 skinny cows swallow the 7 healthy cows. And no one remembers that these cows were ever there. Joseph interprets these dreams for Pharaoh and understands that rough times are ahead. And he understands that after 7 years of plenty, Egypt will suffer 7 years of hardship and famine. And during the hard years, no one will ever remember the good years, and despair will take over. As this secular year winds down and we think about all the stresses in our lives, all the stresses of this past year, all the stresses of these past almost 2 years with COVID and everything that we've had to deal with this past year, we need messages that the future will be brighter and that brighter days are ahead. As I said a moment ago, the story of Hanukkah is a story about how light pushes away darkness, and it's a story of how when life appears too dark, it just takes one candle, then we light another candle, and magically we push away darkness. During Hanukkah, we light our candles and then we place them in the window for the whole world to see. This light is a symbol of a joyous future, because we know that as we move through these days that get colder and darker, we know that warmer and longer days are ahead. Better times are ahead. This light is also a symbol of faith and hope. And just like in Pharaoh's dream, it is easy when it is dark to forget about the light. Just like it's easier when we are suffering to forget about the good days and the good times, or to even imagine that good times are ahead. It's so easy for us to give up when things look bad or when things go wrong. Maybe this is why Jews and our Christian brothers, sisters, and siblings light their holiday lights during the darkest and coldest nights of the year. Before I close, I want to tell you a different story about Hanukkah, one that comes from the Talmud. In the Talmud, the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai are having an argument, a disagreement about the proper way to light the Hanukkah candles. Shammai opined that the 8 candles should be lit on the first night, 7 on the second night, and so on down to the last night. And he believed this because the miracle was greatest on the first day. Contrary, Hillel argued in favor of starting with 1 candle and lighting an additional one every night up to 8 on the 8th night. And he believed this because the miracle grew in greatness each day. In the democratic spirit of the Talmud, the question was voted on by their colleagues, and Hillel's opinion prevailed, thereby establishing our current practice of lighting from 1 to 8. And the reasons that the rabbis adopted Hillel's argument is that each night we should add a light. We should not take it away. Thus, each night we raise up holiness. We raise up the holiness in our world. We do not lower it. So going back to this week's Torah portion, we learned at the beginning that Joseph is in prison. He's in prison for a crime that he never committed. and he's basically been forgotten about. Then one day he's pulled from prison. He interprets Pharaoh's dream. He's then given the responsibility for gathering food for Egypt during the days of plenty to feed people during the time of famine, making him, of course, the second most powerful man in Egypt, and I'd probably argue the most powerful man in Egypt. But I want to highlight this because during this time of year, it is easy for us to forget about those who are suffering. It's easy for us to forget about those who have food insecurity. And so I ask that you remember those who may be in need of food, are those who may be suffering from food insecurity. And remember that Hanukkah is about lighting candles. Hanukkah is about bringing in more light. We light little candles, little flames of light to push away darkness. Hanukkah is so important at this time to bring light and joy into the world. And Judaism at its best is about adding holiness and never subtracting it. And like the rabbis of the Talmud, I agree, we must have more light, more joy, more holiness every night. More joy, more holiness into the world every night, not less. Chag Sameach, my friends. Thank you for letting me spend this time with you. Have a great evening.